Thanks, Hope. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name's Jim Agutter, and I'm in the Office of Undergraduate Studies, and I get to be the friendly syllabus person. Uh, and I just want to reference and give acknowledgments to this much broader team at the University of Utah that's really helped wrangle and wrestle this quite complicated activity that you all are participating in, which we are so thankful for. Maggie Blanton, thank you, John Thomas, Ann Cook, Veronica Savage, Bryce Walker, the registrar's office, Suzanne Waymont in UIT, and many others have really worked on this, trying to make it as simple as possible, a simple syllabus, pun intended, which I know many of you are thinking like, wow, this is not simple. But considering where we started, we've come a long way. So why you're here is we have generated for the first time in our curriculum a list of mandatory courses. And those courses were identified through associate deans and submitted in that then were put into PeopleSoft that then flow down into Simple Syllabus. And you are contacted because in PeopleSoft, you are an instructor of record for that course. Now, we're finding in some cases there are errors. We apologize for that. But as we're looking at 2,000, 3,000 some odd courses, there are bound to be errors. So please give us a little bit of grace in that. And what we're doing on the backside is collecting all of that information as you submit to class help and really helping us for the next time around refine that list, which we know will be curated and expanded a bit more based on what we didn't collect the first time. House Bill 261, if you're not familiar, a portion of that House Bill requires the posting of certain components to a public searchable repository. And we procured Simple Syllabus software as that repository. Many questions have come up about posting to CIS. We initially thought that that would be in compliance. USHE has come back and stated to us that that is not a public searchable database in their view. And so that's why we've had to move to Simple Syllabus, which creates this really wonderful repository of syllabi. The timeline, so long term, we see that Simple Syllabus has many pedagogical uses and can streamline work of posting and renewing syllabi and working with students in there. However, for this semester and at least next, the focus is to use the tool to comply with House Bill 261, and which means we have to comply for this semester, we have to take the existing syllabi that many of you already posted in CIS, thank you, and we have to take those and put those into Simple Syllabus so there's a searchable repository. USHE is ongoing monitoring the compliance of this, and they are looking at that repository of syllabi. And so we need to just repost for the fall by October 15th. Hope we'll walk through it, and it's very simple. Then moving into next semester, for this group specifically, and we'll look at who is teaching courses and send out another mandatory courses and send out another email only to those faculty with a renewed list, some of the errors changed or addressed and other things. We'll send another notice, and those syllabi for the spring, according to House Bill 261, need to be posted 2 weeks prior to the semester, which is December 22nd. So we totally get that this is a lot of moving pieces and some deadlines, but we'll try to give you enough information so that you know what to do if you are teaching another mandatory class in the spring. And really the putting it into Simple Syllabus is quite simple. If you have technical questions, please email classhelp@utah.edu. Many of you have found our website on digital learning technology, and you can ask questions regarding the compliance. If you We have a list on our website, and we can post that, of college compliance who has identified themselves through the dean or themselves as college compliance individuals. And those folks can help you really think through what is the mandatory course, why was yours included, why was yours excluded, and have that discussion. And then we can get new lists from those folks. We'll load a recording of this to the Simple Syllabus website, as I mentioned, that's on DLT's site, and we'll host open office hours next Thursday, 9/18 at noon. So please, thank you. We'll have some folks monitoring the questions and deal with that. And now I'll turn it back over to Hope.
All right, great. I'm sure some of you all have already found the Q&A feature at the very bottom of that Zoom bar. If you have questions while we're going through this, please feel free to drop in any questions there. The team here is going to be monitoring those questions, and anything about functionality about the tool, more than happy to answer that and go through that as well. So we're gonna go ahead and jump on into this. Again, please feel free to drop in any questions that you have in that Q&A down at the very bottom of that bar. All right, so the faculty experience today, we'll be doing a walkthrough of how to use Simple Syllabus and how to enter your information in. So we're going to be in a sandbox environment today. This is just a testing and a training environment just to show you what this looks like. So I'll be showing you how you're going in, how you're editing that syllabus, and how you're submitting it. We'll go through the dashboard overview, so what you're going to be seeing as that instructor or faculty member. We'll then look at editing that syllabus. And then lastly, how to get assistance moving forward. So those are all the things that we'll cover today. Jumping on in, this is going to be the dashboard view. So you'll be able to access this link and you'll be able to log in using your single sign-on credentials. So you'll be able to log in directly in here and see this dashboard view. Now, this dashboard is going to show you all the different syllabi that you might have to work on. So you'll see them in your to-do list. Some other things here on the left-hand side is going to be the library. So that's the repository that also exists on the left-hand side there. So you'll be able to see that also as an instructor. All right, so let's go ahead and jump on in to start working on this. Couple of things just before we jump on it actually is going to be on the right-hand side. You always can go back and see any previous syllabi that you've submitted. So if you want to go back to your summer term, any of terms that you've submitted syllabi for, you'll be able to go in, click on that, and it will show in the completed column. That's just an example there just to show you what that can look like as well. All right. And I see that there are quite a few questions about access it from where. Just for the Utah team here, are they going directly to that link that was in an email, I believe? Okay, great. So there should have been an email. That email was from, who did that exactly come from? From Maggie. So look for Maggie's name in your inbox. That's going to be in there, and that's going to have the link directly to Simple Syllabus. All right, so when I open up my syllabus here, this is going to show me kind of my editing pane. At the very top, I have a message. This goes through just some important features to know about on how you can use Simple Syllabus. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes here. Some other options you have is replace with a different syllabus. So your very first time that you're adding information in here, you're going to be manually adding that content in. But let's say the following term for spring 2026, you're teaching the same course. It's actually going to auto import all your information over, and then you'll just submit that document again. You'll make necessary changes, but it won't be like you're having to add that information in every single term. You can just add that in and then push that forward. So first time, a little bit of adding information in, but then going forward, that's going to be continue to move forward for you in that process. Now, if this is your first time, let's say in 2 terms from now, you're teaching another course, and this is somewhat similar to this anthropology course. Let's just say that this bio one is. You can grab this syllabus you've already created and import that one into the one that you're working on here, so you're not starting from scratch. So we'll talk a little bit more about kind of editing and what you're doing in that syllabus, but just know that's an option at the very top. You also will see some helpful hints. That's the last thing listed in here. So on the right-hand side, you're going to see that there are notes about what exactly needs to be listed in there and other information that are important to know. So definitely reference that right-hand side for any kind of notes. And anytime you see that blue bar here, that's indicating that it's just a note that's visible to you as a faculty or an instructor. So you'll be able to see that, but it won't be on the published view. All right, bird's eye view here. As we're looking through this, you're going to see here that there's a break, and then there's another break, and then there's another break. Those are referred to as components within Simple, and they essentially store information. Some of this information has been pre-populated for you. That way you don't have to worry about adding that info in, such as like course description or information about the course at the very top. That will have your correct information already loaded directly in there for you. Now this area here, we can see it says course outcomes and objectives. So this is something that we do need to fill out that is required for us to complete. You're going to see some of these areas already have highlights around them indicating those also need to be completed. I always recommend looking for the area that says visible with a lock next to it. That means it needs your attention. You need to add some information in here. The reason why this one isn't highlighting for you is because there's already some pre-populated content, but we still need to add those course outcomes and objectives in. So for example here, let's go ahead and add that in. All right, so we can add that content in. Below, that's going to show our character count, not a limit, just simply a count for you. And you are going to see too, when I'm adding any kind of content into this box, it's automatically saving. So it is auto-saving all of your work for you as you're adding information in. Again, if your internet goes out, you lose power. That happens quite often for us because as you can see, we are close to the water here. So it will auto-save all of your work for you. And then once you go back and submit, that will be on the published view of that document. Course requirements, so this one here on the right-hand side, we have a breakdown on what exactly should be listed in there. So we have some examples. We can add in a table if we'd like. So if you want to add a table in, we can do that. We also could add a bullet point list in. So if we wanted to do something like this or a numbered list, you also have that flexibility from there. This box is rich text enabled, meaning you can bold things, you can italicize things, highlight things, whatever you need to do in that space. So for this example, let's build a table in. So if we wanted to build a table in, let's say it was going to be 6 rows, 2 columns, we can click into that individual cell and then say we want to add a header in. And then from there, we can adjust this. So let's say that this is going to be activity. And then percentage. So we can fill this out, we can add the information in there, we can adjust the colors being used or the cell backgrounds in here, and then you also can space out and add additional context. So whatever you want to add in there, you again have that flexibility in that space to list that how you want it to look. Next area is required and recommended reading, so you can add your information in there. Again, if you're looking to add that in with an ordered list, example book, ISBN, and then we can list out whatever the ISBN is. So again, you can list out all those required materials as needed in whatever format makes most sense to you. Grading scale, that's also going to be another area where you are able to add in a table. So we add that table in there. We can add that header in there so we can build that grading scale as I mentioned before with building that table. And then from there, if we want to put additional, let's say we didn't account for all of the different rows that we needed. We can add that in and then adjust that. So if we want to put a letter, and then let's say we're using our points, we can customize that. And then we can list out how we want that to look from here. So again, we can build that in. And what's really nice about this is that you already have your university policy area already presented to you, meaning that link is correct. So you're not having to worry about making sure that link is correct, that it's not a broken link or that policy's been updated. It's already updated for you in one place. So that will already be there. And then here we have our preliminary course schedule. So on the right-hand side, this is giving you an example of how this can look. This is also showing you an example of how that table can look. So if you want to use a table, you can build it in that way. So let's go ahead and build another table in. All right, so we click on that. We want to add a header in. And now we can say that this is our week. All right, and then we add all our information in here, and then below, you want to add some other information about the course schedule. We can list that in there too. So again, that information, you can add all of that in there. That is all going to be rich text enabled as well. So here, again, you have that rich text bar. So if you do want to format things, align things different ways, you do have that answer there. So again, building in that table, you'll be able to do that directly in there. You can copy and paste. So I'm seeing a lot of questions about copying and pasting. So yes, you can copy and paste into Simple Syllabus. It is going to strip that formatting. So it is going to pull it over in plain text. So that way it's matching exactly kind of what you have in the site. The reason for that being is that sometimes when you're copying and pasting another table over from another word processor, that can cause accessibility issues. So what we've done is kind of allowed copying and pasting, and then you can format that information into that table. On the right-hand side, you also have an accessibility checker, which will go through that information for you as well. So here, we'll also be able to pick up if there's anything that's been detected. So this should have a caption. All those tables should have captions listed in them as well. And then also will pick up on like contrasting issues. If you have an image in there without an alt tag, that's also something that you'll have in there too. All right, so if we add a caption in there, we'll just do this one as an example. Course schedule. So we've resolved that one. We have two more. So just to show you an example of what that looks like. All right, at the very bottom, we can leave an internal comment for ourselves. So if you want to leave a comment to yourself or to the admin user, you can do that from here as well. That will show you in a list. Once you've submitted that, that's going to show you some confetti, which means you successfully submitted that document there. And now you can grab the URL or the PDF URL. That's not the last time you'll see that. You can always grab it later on too. So if we jump out of that, then this is going to show up for us here. So that will show us again, who is the designated instructor on that. And we can see here that we have that I. Now I do want to highlight in this completed column, you're going to see here that it's showing the green check mark. That green check mark wasn't just there, and that's because it was taking some time to render. So if you're ever submitting a document and you're not seeing a green check mark, that means that it has been submitted, but it might not be available just yet in that syllabus library. So just something to keep in mind there. It usually takes a couple of seconds or up to a minute just getting that document pushed over, depending on that time of year as well. Now from here, we can go back in, adjust anything as needed. We can view that syllabus, print, and share it, which is where you can grab that information. So the links that you just saw. So if I view that syllabus, just to show you what that looks like here, that is going to be an interactive navigation bar on the left-hand side, so we can jump to specific areas of that syllabus. If a student needs to do a quick search to find an assignment, they can do that from there as well. And again, we can jump to specific areas. So that's going to be what the published view of that document would also look like, directly available in that library that I highlighted for you before. All right. Now, something else that you'll be able to also see here is there is going to be an I available that will have a list of like student enrollments that will vary kind of depending on this particular term. But in the future, you will have a bit like that availability to see the full list of all of the students enrolled in a particular course. So that will be coming shortly. So that is going to be some of the major highlights that I want to go over for you all. Hopefully relatively simple to add that information in. A couple of things I want to highlight too, just before I open it up for any major questions that anyone has here, is going to be this question mark. So if I hit this question mark down at the very bottom, I have a form I can fill out. So if you have a question, you can submit that support ticket over. That will open up a ticket where a team member will get back to you. And you also have access to an AI chat. So if you do have questions about, let's say, how to submit a syllabus, questions about how to build a table, and you can use that. Our support team has actually trained that model and also gone off of all of the articles that we have available. So it's a really good resource if you have some questions and need a quick answer. That's a really great resource to use there. And then we also have that knowledge base that's going to bring you over here so you can view some kind of general videos just on overview pieces and also some helpful articles that you can reference in there as well. So that's going to be all the things that you need to know in order to kind of successfully submit that syllabus directly in Simple. Couple of things here on your screen. This is going to be a QR code that you can scan to share about how you're feeling about using it. Also, if you have any thoughts about it, you can scan that QR code with your phone, or you can head over to that link on your screen. Now, I know there are a couple of questions that are open here, so I'd love to kind of pass it back over to Maggie, Jim, and Bryce if there's any that would be more helpful to answer on the call, because I know some might have the same question.
Yeah, I thank you. Hope that was really great. Hopefully it's easy and we see the questions coming in, and I guess there are a couple that are highlighted that I wanted to just discuss. So right now, what we have is, let me just tell you the process because this will tell you what you're seeing or not seeing in Simple Syllabus, is that we went through a process with your associate deans, your compliance folks in the colleges. They identified mandatory courses. And in some cases, that may not have been all, some might have been some extra. We're working through that. And then that information was uploaded into PeopleSoft into a new category that we call mandatory. And then that flows down into Simple Syllabus. So it has a course number and a section number and an instructor. That's the sort of place of record for that. And so what that means is if it is not showing up for you in a to-do, according to the list that we were given as of about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, that course is not listed as mandatory. So technically, you don't have anything other to do except for if you know that this course is mandatory, because this is the first time that we're doing this, we ask you to reach out with your college compliance person, and we'll post the link for where that list is and indicate to them that the course that you're teaching is actually mandatory, and we need to add that to our comprehensive list to do a bulk upload into PeopleSoft to capture that. So that's what we request. If there are section issues, we saw another bunch of questions. We are having some issues where some sections are flowing down and some are not. That section issue, if you can let the class help group know, and we can troubleshoot that. In some cases, we don't have any, and in isolated cases, there are sections, because USHE does require all sections of mandatory courses. Now, if that section was added after a certain date when we did the poll, that may be the case why that's not showing up, because we're doing it at certain intervals. So what are the other big questions that we have, Maggie and Bryce?
The copy and paste.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Hope walked through that. I did that for several copy and paste. I just pulled up whatever format you have of your syllabus and just copy and pasted it, and it worked like great, formatted it pretty well. On these, please don't spend much time on formatting. If it ends up being if it has extra breaks, all we're really trying to do is get compliance. And so students are not viewing this unless they happen to stumble upon the simple syllabus posting, but it's not linked to any place that students would navigate. It's purely for compliance. So don't spend much time, just copy and paste. Let's get the content in. We've restricted it down to the essential components that USHI is requiring, nothing more. So there are no names associated with it, and there are no other extraneous stuff that they don't need to see.
Okay, we have one question. It says they want to import a copy of a syllabus over to maybe copying to another syllabus, entire syllabus. Is that a feature?
Yeah, it is not.
Yeah.
Because of this is purely for compliance, we're restricting it down to the individual components that are needed for compliance. So, what we suggest is just go into your syllabi, find the relevant information, copy it, boom, drop it in, go through all of it, and hit submit. There was a question about the syllabus library and where can you see if it's actually been done, because maybe it just moves off of your to-do list. And you can go to this, Hope, could you go to the syllabus library?
Yep.
And you can search for your class just to verify that it is indeed there. There was another question about delegates. Delegates, yes, we know that there are delegates. That's kind of a critter in itself. We're finding out that more people use delegates than what we anticipated. But if you reach out to class help and you are a manager or a delegate for more than one class, we can set you up with the appropriate credentials. So then you can just go in and see all those you tell us what course or what department and at what level we need to put you in, and you can see an individual, let's say, section or all the sections for a particular class. We could also do more elevated where you're in a program, or even more elevated in a college, just depending on what that has. And then we will be going through a training process for compliance folks who will be your sort of looking at to see if, just making sure that the syllabi have been posted and sort of following up with folks.
I wanted to jump in. My name's Bryce Walker. We support the tickets for class help, and we have a group who are going to be receiving your tickets. I wanted to reiterate the importance of talking to your college compliance, and there is on the website that Jim talks about, there is the college compliance, which sometimes are the associate deans. It's very important to talk to them about whether your course is a mandatory course. That list did get trimmed down quite a bit. And for now, if you don't see something in your course list, then take that as it's going to come maybe later, and that means spring of 2026. And we're going to continue to comply with this, but it's going to take some time. And so for graduate level courses, that will be later. And we're going to figure out when there's issues. But for if you don't see a course and it's supposed to be there, work with your college compliance. And if they say, oh yeah, it should be there, then we'll work with them to see and verify that. We'll work with ticketing. The tickets that do come in, we're going to work to resolve those issues. But we do see that there will be an influx of help support tickets, and we're going to work to figure out issues in regards to that. And I also noticed that there are a number of questions in the queue here, and we'll resolve to try to answer these questions. But I do apologize if we don't answer every question here during this webinar.
Uh, Hope, do we have the ability to post a link for that DLT site?
I think we
Or
might be able to.
and maybe I can give it to you as a direct message, or if you could just pull up that site,
Yeah,
and
I can definitely do that.
that'd be great. And scroll down. And we'll see about posting this. This is where we have these compliance contacts, and these are the sort of folks that have been identified, uh, either through the dean or themselves, that can help. And so then we funnel all of these questions and build this much more robust mandatory list as we go forward. Anything else you're seeing as general themes, Maggie and Bryce?
I guess I know that there's been a lot of talk about the copying and pasting, but I think it sounds like there were questions not from copying and pasting from another document, but copying between syllabi that are already in simple syllabus. So hope maybe going over that again.
Yeah,
quick.
absolutely. So when you first create your initial syllabus within Simple, you'll have that in the to-do column. You're manually adding that information in. So if I am teaching this course, let's say in spring of 2026, when I'm going in here to create that syllabus, when I open it for the next time, it's actually going to show it's importing the contents over from this previous term with the information I entered in. So it will still say the correct term, still say the correct information, but it's almost like a giant copy and paste for you. So the information is going to be listed in there. Then you can make adjustments as needed. As I mentioned during the very beginning of the training too, is that let's say you already created your very first syllabus within Simple, you do have the option to replace with a different syllabus as well if you want to give yourself kind of like a starter to go off of. So you could choose one of these and import that in. It will pull into the areas that you have edit access to, and then from there you can adjust as needed. So you have those two options available.
I saw a question, and maybe there are multiple questions about being on top of it for next semester, and really, really appreciate the proactivity. We are going to work, there's some technical challenges to get auto refreshing, and when the course catalog and the schedules are kind of finalized, but we will be working in the background to try to get spring semester loaded as soon as we possibly can, so that it gives you all, if you are teaching a spring course that is considered mandatory, as much time as possible before the December 22nd deadline. I can't give you exact dates, but we very much want to be proactive with you and enable that to be done, so it's not last second. And we will send out a email when that is all set and people can start to upload. And as we get closer to the semester, if sections or courses drop off the schedule or get added in, we're figuring out some mechanisms so that those will automatically flow down. And so the hope is when you come in, you will see the mandatory, and that's just it. You do your to-do list, you get out. If you don't see it, it's like, okay, well, let your compliance person, will collect that, we'll add it, and we'll just do this iterative process.
And I am seeing there's quite a few questions just on who to reach out to or what email to reach out to for class help.
Oh, right. So that is classhelp@utah.edu. That goes to Bryce's team. They are looking at those continually. They can help with roles, delegation issues, syllabi not showing up, et cetera, around the technology. I think for the mandatory course, if it's, if it's not showing up, then we don't have it in our list. And in that particular case, if you could reach out to your college contact, that helps us then collect that data. If you send it to us accidentally or you send it to class help, we're cataloging all of that too, and that we're collecting a master sheet of those particular changes so that we can ensure that those get added.
I want to point out there is one feature that we're working on, which is where you may see a course listed with the same section twice. And that is something we're working on. So if you may encounter a course and it's listed, the exact same course listed twice with the same section, be aware we're working to eliminate that so you'd only see that listed once.
Yeah, thanks, Bryce. And Louisa asked for class help, CLASSHELP @utah.edu. There's another question about the list of global mandatory courses available. We have provided that with us to associate deans. And because we know that it is not entirely accurate, and this is an evolving process and humans make errors, we are not putting that out into the broader world. What we will have is a list of courses to the best of our knowledge that are on simple syllabus and that are posted there. Yeah, Cindy asks a good question on, classes listed that were canceled. I would say in that particular case, if your class is not being offered during the fall, but we will see that as missing because of just the frequency that we're updating this and some of the changes that evolve. If you can just put the syllabus on there of what you would have taught, then we can be. And when your compliance person looks at the list of the courses, if you can just have it there and then they won't hound you and sort of like, you're just like, I just put it there even though I'm not teaching it. That will be solved as we get more frequent updates. So I appreciate your patience on that. Yeah, so Preston, what we're doing right now is just doing go to your compliance and we'll do it for next semester. We're trying to do this as fast as we can, but we understand that if we start putting it into simple syllabus and you do class help, so you just contact your compliance person. They'll have that list and then they'll submit it over to us and we'll get that uploaded, and that will be the next iteration and including more courses for next semester. Now, there was a question about grad programs. Some programs have done entered grad programs. The policy says that all courses, regardless of level, that are required for a student to take with no alternative to get their degree is considered a mandatory. The colleges and the associate deans at first worked on, for the most part, undergraduate, but we had many people who put graduate stuff in. Again, this next iteration will capture more of those mandatory courses that are required. And in some cases, there may be some seminars and other things that are required. and that may or may not have syllabi. And I think we'll just have to work through those sort of issues in, in a one-off way. Yeah, so there's questions about, no, Christy, don't stress. We're doing the best we can. If the graduate level, but if you know of something, I think part of this too is a process for us to capture these mandatory courses. And we're finding that, associate deans and curriculum folks, and it's a new way of thinking. And so it's iterative. And so if you see something that you know is mandatory, then please contact those folks so that we can get this ever-growing, robust list that then moving forward will continually have updated. We're putting a process in place for yearly curriculum review that will have a mandatory course review. So that will help going forward. But this first bit is a bit of a critter and difficult. Readings. Anything that you have students use on a regular basis to give them information that is, we can construe readings to be films or whatever materials you are using to inform students about what they're doing that's outside of lectures and other things. Yes, please put. We know that some of these things, this is a slice in time. We know that some of your syllabi dynamically change. When you do something 2 weeks before, we are very aware that things change after that. The goal is to put the best effort you can to get the material that is at that time accurate. But if a schedule changes, yes, that will happen. You don't need to go back into simple syllabus and change anything. It would just be reflected in your standard process of your syllabus in the class and letting those students know. What else are we missing? Leslie put, so every video, PDF, or text must be included. Well, if you're communicating that to the student, use your best judgment on what the information is. Again, we understand that some of that changes. There may be very highly detailed readings that evolve based on class discussions. And so you don't need to put like that if it's evolving. But if there is a high level understanding of the material that you are providing students, yes, please put it in there. So Emily, yes, the 3 sections for writing and only 1 or 2 that are showing up. This kind of, Bryce brought it up. We're having some issues with some sections. So in that particular case, if you see some and not all sections, that section could have been added later, but please reach out to class help and we'll see if that is an error or that's like a new addition since we did this last roundup. Kim, you asked a question about simple syllabus being used only for compliance. Yes. Right now, this is only for mandatory courses. We will get through our cat wrangling and data stuff and try to make it as seamless for instructors as possible. And then we will move into another place where we can broaden this out, because simple syllabus is a wonderful tool for student success. And we really want to make that available, but part quite frankly, our heads would have exploded if we would have tried to do that at first. So if they're co-instructors, it's pulling the instructor of record from PeopleSoft tables. So the beauty of what we have to supply for Yushi, if you can call it beautiful, is that there's no instructors. There's no names associated with it. It's only classes. So if you have co-instructors, whoever sees it and it's probably the main instructor of record, that might be I don't know, the first one listed, then just have them go in and fill that in, and then you're all done. There are plans, Fernando, to integrate it into CIS or Canvas, but that's when our brains can like sort of settle and we don't cause mass hysteria and confusion with all of our students and all of our faculty. But yes, that's on the roadmap because it's a really wonderful tool. We also have another tool that we're going to be rolling out with Simple Syllabus, Simple Prep that will help some of this. But so Dave, oh, sorry, Maggie, go ahead.
Quick question. Hope, can a syllabus and Simple Syllabus be exported into like a PDF? Okay.
Yes, it can
Then
be
posted
downloaded.
into CIS.
So if you go over to here where it says print, you can print that. It can save as a PDF as well. So if you hit print, that will allow you to do that.
Yes, the course description, we're trying to make this job as easy as possible. We know in some cases that those course descriptions are somewhat outdated, but we're pulling in that data for you, and we've just locked it down. So it's like, don't worry about it. Just fill in these other places, and that's the public course description. And that's what's being required of us. Hope, can you go back to the course library or schedule syllabus library? So you'll see in your dashboard that little person bookie library thing. And this is where all the syllabi are stored. You can search to your heart's content. You can find what your colleagues are doing. There's a question. Thanks, Hope. There's a question about hyperlinks and other things. No, please don't spend the time to do it in APA format or anything. It's just copy and paste and let it be. So whatever, to eliminate you all from doing tons of work, it's just take whatever is there, put it in. If it, as Hope indicated, if it happens to be in like a really fancy, nice style that is pertinent to your discipline, Simple Syllabus, where we have it set now, is going to take away that formatting and just put it in a very basic formatting, which may look kind of strange. Like, Hope, could you pull up a couple of those syllabi and we can just sort of see some stylistic differences, and it's really about content versus style. So there's some bullet points. Yep, all great. Love and more love. Please don't correct if it messes up the numbering. Don't spend, this is about compliance and not about perfection. Yeah, Kim, graduate courses in School of Medicine. So we've been talking with Wendy in some cases, and I can't remember if it's in pediatrics or somewhere. We have some graduate level, but those still need to be looked at. And so You know, particularly for yours, it's working with Sarah, and I can't remember the other person, but identifying those courses, and then we'll do a bulk upload here in a month or so as we get that information back. We published it. Dave, we are asked to publish a PDF version of our syllabi via class tools. No, so the publishing, what Hope is showing is our requirement for the compliance. You don't, someone could print it, but you don't need to do anything. As long as it's showing up here, bingo, we're done. Move on and put this in your rearview mirror until December, before December 22nd, I'll say. Don't put it in your rearview after. Yeah, Danielle, this is we're doing the best that we can. There's no gotcha. If any gotcha, I'm responsible for the ultimate implementation of this. And individual faculty, if you are not on that list, on the mandatory, then it's like we didn't know it was mandatory. This is a university with over, I don't know, it's 13,000 individual classes separate from the sections being taught every semester. And in 6 months to turn around and identify a comprehensive list of mandatory courses that is entirely accurate with 100% compliance is next to impossible. And so we're going to continue to iterate like our good folks throughout the rest of the state. Weber State, we're in talks with them about how they're doing it. They've worked with Simple Syllabus. And what we're seeing is that they're continually iterating and getting more in there. What you know, and so we're just learning. New classes come in, classes go away, curriculum changes, all those things need to be factored in. So yep. And ultimately, yeah, it will sit with me that we did the best that we could. So Sue asked a question about 6 co-instructors. I think we took the record from PeopleSoft with the associated instructor with it. We'll double check. I don't know if it includes all instructors, and then we use that as a mechanism to mail the folks. So I think in that particular case, maybe just check with your colleagues. And it's like, did they get the email? Because we, again, as that comes back out of PeopleSoft, we may not capture all the emails. So maybe only one person was notified. And then that person would then, that information is also going into PeopleSoft or into Simple Syllabus. That would be the person that would be responsible. Yeah, so if something submission is out of compliance, if you submitted and you filled in those pieces, you're in compliance. If folks have not submitted, that's where someone will contact you from your college to say, hey, I ran a report and we're missing this class or these sections. Can you please upload that? Those folks will be trained at the end of the month, and then they'll have access to some reporting tools, and then they'll just work with you to get that uploaded before the deadline. And then we on our side too, will also be looking and following up with folks if something's fallen through the cracks, just like, huh. And I will assure you, brute force approach, just that this is like, I shouldn't reveal what ultimately could happen in some cases because we want you to do it all. The brute force approach is that we'll look at this and we will either through CIS or somewhere else, if we see that there are a number of places that haven't done this for October 15th, there might be some very legitimate reasons for that. We'll just find the syllabi some way and we'll upload it. Yeah, thanks, Louisa, for asking this question. That's one of our difficulties. So we are going to, so we have PPM 6100, which is internal policy, and we have USHI. So to be in compliance with USHI, we have to post this information to Simple Syllabus so that it is searchable. We tried last semester just to post it to CIS. They came back and said, no, that doesn't qualify as a searchable database. So for the spring, you are going to have to post a mandatory course in Simple Syllabus and then post all syllabi, whether it's mandatory or just not, in CIS. I know. It's like extra work, but that's just where we are so that we can be in compliance. The internal policy is really a student success effort to really make sure that students have the information that they need, and that can be quite detailed. It can be, whatever you determine that you want to share with students in that format. So.
And just reiterating, the deadline for spring is December 22nd.
Yeah, and we shared a one-pager document with your associate deans and some other folks. So yeah, and we strongly encourage one deadline, which is December 22nd, just to get this all done, both in CIS and in Simple Syllabus. Well, I know we're at time, and hopefully, we've addressed all the questions. This will be recorded. It will be on our website. We understand that this is kind of a critter, that it adds an additional burden on you all. Very apologetic. But we very much appreciate you working through this and dealing with all of the sort of complexity of this. And I guess we ask for the understanding that it is kind of a complex thing, and we'll get there, and it will be so much easier next semester and in future semesters. So with that, we'll wrap up. Hope, do you have any last sage words of Simple Syllabus wisdom?
Not too many, but I know that this is a new tool that you all are using. It is meant to make life a little bit easier. I do know that you all have had a lot of different things thrown at you, so hopefully this will be a relatively easy process to add that information in there. As Jim stated also, like, you can just copy and paste that information in there at a later time. If you want to make it look pretty or add things in, you can definitely do that. So again, you should be able to access that. I was going through some of the questions in there. And if you did have specific questions, as Jim said, for ones that you're not seeing that are mandatory courses, to reach out to class help or reach out to your department chair if there's something specific.
Yep. And one last question Alessandro brought up. I want to make it clear. Every course at the university will need to have a syllabus uploaded in CIS and then mandatory courses with, if they show up in your to-do, will need to be uploaded for the spring. And you will be notified if that course now, let's say some additional graduate level courses have been added, you will be sent an email as the instructor of record for that course to let you know that you need to go post that mandatory course in Simple Syllabus for spring semester. All right, with that, we bid adieu. Thank you so much and hope you all have a wonderful day.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.